Hello, everyone. It's really nice to have all of these people here on the Zoom and many more I see watching with me live on Facebook. I am Dr. Shalon Shachaf, and I'm the founder of Unblock with Human Design, a Facebook support community. Let me also go to the next slide. I want to introduce just our community. Our community has been fast growing. We reached 1.6K members very recently, and just the week before we reached 1,500. So for the longest time, we've been growing very slowly, and now it's kind of exploding. So thank you everybody who is participating on the community. Our community is dedicated to I'll explain in a minute. I'm Dr. Shalon Shachaf. I'm a creative unblocking expert of writing, deconditioning, and human design coach and mentor. I'm a 5-1 emotional manifester on the left angle cross of refinement. I am here to initiate people into their flow of creativity. My background is in academia, and my first kind of audience was blocked academic writers, which if any of you are familiar with academia, that's everybody. In my whole life, I might have known one or two academic writers who were not fully blocked. And as I incorporated human design into my life, I'm on my 7th year of my experiment. It all happened so radically. I delved right in, and it stopped making sense to me to not use human design with anybody. So all my clients get the support they need, whether it's to start and initiate a project, get a project that was unstuck. I do, I work with people who have books or dissertations or a writing project, but really I've worked at this point with, so many different creative types, furniture makers, filmmakers, really, and people who are stuck in a corporate or a whatever soulless job, who are looking to initiate and start something new in their lives. I really working with people who know already in their core of their heart that they need something else and they want to go in a different direction, but they're not sure exactly how to affect this thing, because my own trajectory went through a big shift like that, leaving behind the straight life of running around trying to prove things with my ego, discovering human design, and then really letting myself have a whole new life. And that happened on my Uranus opposition, which leads us to today's topic, which we will be delving to in a minute, life cycle analysis. So I am obsessed with life cycles. After understanding how to read your own human design chart, understanding your annual cycles, and then your bigger life cycles, which there are 3 big important ones: your Saturn return, your Uranus opposition, and then your Chiron return, are enormously important for your deconditioning process, and especially for the bigger ones. And we'll talk about this in a sec, the difference between these two different, the annual one and the bigger ones. The bigger ones are all about aligning with your soul's purpose, with your purpose here on earth. The annual ones are a little bit more about the choppy weather that you will be seeing. But long story short, my interest in life cycle analysis started, I'm a 5-1, so I always want to give practical solutions to the people who are working with me. And I could see that so many of the people working with me are really, I almost want to say, distracted from just following strategy and authority. And the distraction comes from being distracted from that comes from this sense of like, but what do I do? What do I do? No time. I have to find my purpose. And so another way to surrender into how do you find your purpose would be to really understand those bigger life cycles and their influence on your not self and your true self, and as a way to really align with that bigger question that, again, as I said, a lot of time people are, I'm giving them human design gold, right? I'm giving them really good advice. And they wait and wait. And those of you who are practitioners might know that, right? Like you give a person this fantastic human design chart reading, but they came in with a question that they're obsessed with. And when you're done, they're like, okay, go back to my question. Like all they want to do is ask this specific question. So since a lot of the people I know at least are here, are doing this because they really want to understand how to better dance with their life purpose, I find that this is a very helpful way to do. Again, I'm Dr. Shalom Shahaf, creative unblocking. I just got joined the Facebook community. It's called Unblock with Human Design. I opened a new group that's more directed to giving information about the workshop. All of this is in Unblock with Human Design. I don't want to spend a lot of time in this. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, or if you're enjoying any of my hours and hours and hours of free content on YouTube, it's really important to not skip that stage and subscribe. First of all, you're going to get alerts and notifications whenever I put something new on YouTube. But mostly, and honestly, this is the way you help the channel grow. You help it reach more people, and you help the algorithm kind of recognize that something is going on in this channel. All right. We have workshops and programs. I will talk a little bit again Friday. If you feel like maybe joining us, you can stay at the end of this Zoom or ask me later. There is a day-long life cycle analysis program that we're going to do this Friday. And of course, I do chart reading services. And finally, join the newsletter, because a lot of time I send, long videos and all sorts of resources that I create only to the newsletter. And also you get alerts right to your inbox whenever there's a new video coming out for me, or a new free coaching call or event, or anything of that sort. All right, so the upcoming workshop announcement, I've said this before, but in case you're new here and you've not heard, today is April 10th. We're talking April 12th, so this is in 2 days. The workshop is called the Master Life Cycle Analysis and Unblock with Human Design Full Day Workshop. It's going to start 11 a.m. In East Coast time. I live in Atlanta, so this is the time zone. It's $360 at this point. We sold out on the early bird special, $360. But I'm giving you the first 3 quick people to use this code can get 10% off. I'm going to put the obviously the link for joining the workshop in the comments. And the big kind of rationale, who is this for, is whether you are one of these people that fully understand your own chart and you want to learn next level of analysis, you want to learn solar return analysis or the bigger cycles, or you're an experienced professional chart reader, but you want to master and practice solar. This is not just solar, but like solar and life cycle analysis. This would be a great way for you to learn how to perform those. All right, so what are life cycles? So I'm going to give the overview. Oh, and by the way, just so you know, if you're new here, because I know there's new and old friends here. 3 weeks ago, I think, I made a 3-hour completely free training dedicated only to the annual or the solar or the Rave return, which is the reading that you're supposed to do every year. As you, not on your birthday, but on your design birthday. So shortly before your design birthday date. This is the first life cycle, the most important annual cycle that you want to look at, because it gives you, and I'm going to talk about this more in a minute, but it really gives you what is going to be out there in your environment, what people are going to be brought to you by the program, what education is going to be brought, what development, right? So there are different layers of what each year brings you, but here is the important thing about that. You really should not be even looking at your Saturn or your Uranus opposition or your Chiron returns without already being in the process of being immersed in looking at your annual chart returns. And the reason is because while those bigger cycles really can align you to what is going on, where is the program taking me, it's not the program's job to decide, right? It's taking you places where then you, with your strategy and authority, need to make decisions that are going to be correct for you to live out your life purpose. This is the big item of the life cycle analysis chart, but you can get there without knowing the pressures, the ongoing, what we call characteristics. And those pressures are really occurring on an annual basis every year. When we look at your annual, and I'll show you those charts, you can see everything that's going to happen. And really, when you look at the solar or annual return, you can see that you will need to, this is the most complicated. From Russ said, from 1 to 10, this is at 10 in terms of the difficulty and the level of technique that you need to do the annual reading. Where if you look at the bigger cycles, it's like maybe a 4 or 5. It's not that difficult, because in the bigger cycles, you really only look at your profile, the cross, and the nodes. And then you can look at some of the other things that are defined, or in the inner and outer planets, but it's not as important. But in the annual one, you really want to look at everything that is there as an encounter in terms of what's going to happen in the year. All right, so let's go back to look at this, to give this is where I'm starting my little bit of my overview and my spiel for people who don't even know what are life cycles, what are we talking about, why is this important in human design. So we have, as I said, the Rave or the solar or annual return, which is a yearly weather forecast. And then we have the Saturn return. Now, people have those in whenever the Saturn goes back to where it was when you were born. So Saturn was somewhere where you were born. It could be, take it between 28 and 32 years, depending on the orbit. It's different, a little different. And when you have your Saturn return, this in human design is considered leaving the nest. So our childhood, since we are in, since we've been in 9-centered beings, our evolved current human vehicle moved from the Saturnian cycle to the Uranian cycle, meaning we're no longer with life expectancy of 40 years, but 84 years. And this is why childhood is a lot longer, and we only leave the nest, go out to the world as ourselves when we hit that Saturn return. So this is the first chart that you want to generate. And in a minute, I will show you how you generate those charts. I'm going to go into Maya Mechanics, which is my favorite software to create those charts. And this is also the official Joven Archive one. All right, then the second one is the midlife point. And this is when Uranus goes into the opposite point from where it had been when you were born. So Uranus takes 84 years to make the full cycle. And at the midpoint of that is your midlife. And this is also when your nodes shifts. And so it's a very important moment in everybody's life. It's also very important in a 6. If you have 6 line in your profile, all of this is even more important for you. In Uranus, in the stage that starts with your Uranus opposition and ends when you get to your Chiron, you plant the seeds of your incarnation cross. So in order to perform, when correct, your differentiated purpose, the years between 40 and 50 are actually years of preparation. So, we live in with these old 7-centered being ideologies. Again, if you're new to human design, Ra explained that we have 9 centers, but that is a relatively new phenomenon, right? And we are still living with the world left to us by our 7-centered being ancestors. And they, somebody just told me this week, again, this story was, oh, if you're a scientist and you've not had your big breakthrough until you were 30 until you turn 30, you're not gonna ever have an important contribution. But according to human design, nothing could be further from the truth. We really only begin to plant the seeds towards planting our cross in between 40 and 50. So the Uranus opposition is a very, the midlife crisis. is the moment for many people, especially if you live in your not self, where you wake up and you go like, F, F. I remember thinking, I am smarter than how I live. Like I've awakened to a lot more. I'm living out decisions that I made in my 20s. I am not aligned with all of this. Like everything that's in my life is reflecting decisions that are not as smart as I am today. I'm now 40, and it was a very painful, slow for me process of understanding how do I let go of that old life in order to, have my new life. And again, finding human design exactly at that point for me. Oh God, what a gift, right? Understanding, oh, okay, I have a completely open ego. So looking back, of course, by the time I was 40, I chose all the wrong doors that would lead me to places where I would be running around trying to prove my worth. A friend of mine that has an undefined spleen kind of had the same thing, where she was really pushed to understand at 40 that she's holding on to a relationship. Well, so she's sacral and she has an undefined spleen. So her sacral said no to the relationship she was in, but her spleen made her hold on to the relationship, right? So in between having these big kind of life moments with those cycles, and in a minute I'll show you exactly how they influence you, because you actually get a chart for the day and you look at the chart and you can see the influences that will happen over 12 years. For example, between Saturn and Uranus opposition, it could be 12 to 14 years. Between Uranus opposition and Chiron, it's closer to, it could be 6 to 10 years. Again, depending on your own timeline. And so these are really long cycles, and you can really see how what was defined for you, what pressures were there for you during that time made you make those decisions. All right. So yeah, then the Chiron return, and that happens usually between age 48 and 51. This and only then is when we actually begin to plant our cross, which is human design speech for living out the fulfillment of your differentiated life as a passenger. And as Ra said, if we honor the form, the passenger inside would be liberated, right? Inside the vehicle would be liberated. So really, here's another disclaimer. All of this tells us Ra is not, well, he's a pessimistic and I'm an optimistic. He said, none of this is really even available to you because you live the not self life. I don't think that it's such a clean cut, but basically, a couple of things. So first of all, what did Ra say? He said, we are born conditioned. We, even when we wake up to human design, need to spend 7 years deconditioning. And so this idea that we can, align with living out our purpose on our cross, for him was like a far-fetched thing. And it's really interesting to also hear how he talks about how he himself was giving people these amazing readings and people are not waking up, or they're not really following strategy and authority. I think things have shifted in the world. I think definitely with human design, it's exploding, and there's so many more people who are open to this kind. I always say this, if you would tell my 30-year-old self about human design, I would send you packing. I would say you were crazy and a woo-woo tree hugger or whatever, right? Well, I love the trees. I would hug the trees, but I was like, I didn't believe in any of these things. And again, human design is not a belief system. It's an experiment. But I needed so much priming before I was open to be shattered by this. Here's the good news, and my motivation is hope. So I do think that if you are deconditioning and you're getting to know your human design chart and you're working with that, it's definitely not impossible to start aligning with your life process. I think we can live out our differentiated, once in a lifetime, unique blueprint of what we're here to do. And I also think that it could be an interesting process to decondition into living that. And it doesn't have to be, also I have a lot of third line. So this idea that you can only get it right in one way and you can't have mistake, I don't like that. So I'm just inviting you guys to welcome and embrace the idea that you can learn about these things, and actually by learning about these things, it will help your process of getting there. All right. So then going back to the PowerPoint, quickly, because again, I did a 3-hour thing on this, and if you never got to see it, it's unlisted on my YouTube. So you have to ask me in order to get, but you can, join the newsletter and you will get, that's the easiest way to actually do it. You can just join the newsletter. You can get the 3-hour Rave solar return presentation. So I'm going to do really just quickly explain the Rave return. And then what I'm going to do today is, after I'll explain the 3 different readings, I'll use my own chart to show you how to look at those charts and to maybe inspire you to look at your own charts. If you join us Friday, everybody is now in the process of uploading their own annual chart for 2023. The people who are in Friday's workshop are uploading their Saturn, their Chiron, their Uranus opposition. And I asked for the 2023 cycle because it's easy. It's so much easier to see a year that you just finished living, and you can kind of look back and go like, oh, okay, so that's what happened, because you can really see everything that happened. All right. It starts in your design birthday, because we have, well, obviously, 3 months before our official birthday is the calculation of our design. And it's very important to understand that this is when our annual cycle actually begins. You want to schedule the reading 3 months before your birthday, therefore, and the focus of that reading is bringing people back to their strategy and authority. And the other, like this is from Ra. He says the focus is negative towards recognizing not self-pressures, weather impact, and weather conditioning. So again, I don't want to focus on this too much, but so I'll just go quickly through this. The focus is on the not self and the pressures, because it is the not self that responds to the conditioning. And then 90% of that cycle reading, if you give this as a reading to your client, actually repeats the foundational chart reading. So basically, let me stop to just explain this real quick. What is the idea of coming every year and when you come? Here is something really, really important. I can't get to this too much right now, so I'm just going to say it. And hopefully, if you're curious, you'll join Friday maybe, or you'll ask me for the 3-hour thing. Your annual process starts 3 months before your birthday. This is the most confusing time of year, and you should not make big decisions in between your design birthday and your regular birthday. Why? Because your unconscious side is done with last year and is downloaded with the process for next year. Your personality, the side that's aware of itself, right? What you think, you are, is still working on last year's shit. So there are actually 3 readings that we're doing in one here, because you're doing what happens when your design clicks into 2024 and is done with 2023, but your personality is still working on 2023, for example, right? Then after 3 months, you get the other side, right? The personality side. And then you want to look at, of course, both the design side and the personality side and how they work together. So it's really very important and very practical. And I'm a 5/1, so I like practical highlights to understand the vulnerability that you have in between your design birthday and your birthday. And that this is not a good time to make any big decisions about the entire year ahead. This is a time to kind of wait to integrate everything that you've learned last year, because your design, your body side, right, is done with last year. You're still, however, 3 months in to finish the personality side. And only when you finish both sides, you can integrate what happened that just got done and finished and move towards the new year. So yes, your annual, I am born February 1st. My annual cycle begins every year November 6th, because that's my design birthday. So that's an important disclaimer. Now, I want to explain about the negative bend or focus of this. When you look at your annual cycle, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more, but like, you're getting the same sun, same earth on both sides, because it's the exact date of your birthdays, right? Your design birthday. But when you go down, right, to the nodes of the moon, the nodes of the moon, the inner planet, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and the outer planet, right, all the way down to Pluto and Uranus, Saturn and Jupiter up there, these can have all sorts of things that are coming your way. These can, they can have gates that you don't have. They can have channels that you don't have. You can have a channel formed by one gate that is in your design nodes. Let's say the 45 is in your design nodes and the 21 is in your personality Mercury. So you can have that full money line, that 45-20. But by the time you've had your birthday, and you're working on this year's process, you might have this full channel. And if you have nothing there, you don't have the 45, you don't have the 21, and this is an ego channel of, it's called the money line. It's about making money. It's about the tribe. We call that an education. So if you don't have the channel and it's created by the transit, you're going to get an education about that energy that year. Now, here's a little bit of a different thing. If that channel is created, as I said before, on the design side, it comes from your nodes, then that's going to be in your environment. The education is going to come in the environment on that side. And if the 21 is indeed in Mercury, inner planets, bring you people. So you're going to have a channel that's going to give you an education, but half of it is going to come from people and half of it is going to come from the environment. Now, you can see that it can take a lot of detective work to figure out everything that's going to happen within a year. And Ra actually warned, he said you can spend the whole year analyzing everything that happens in an annual solar return until it becomes ridiculous. It becomes, one of those jokes where the map becomes as big as the world and it's no longer a map. So you got to kind of, watch out for that and stay kind of focused on what you can really learn. And so and again, I'm not doing the full thing today. You're welcome to the 3-hour thing. And then I'm going to definitely explain this a lot Friday if you want to join the workshop. But you gotta look at, there are keynotes. So one set of keynotes is whether this is coming to you as a personal, an environmental, or an educational influence. Personal is electromagnetic. So if you have a hanging gate, let's say you have gate 5 hanging, and gate 15 is defined by the transit, then it's going to be an electromagnetic. So it's going to feel personal to you. Now, okay, to complicate this more, if the 15 comes from the moon, that's going to be a person. There's going to be a person literally with the gate 15 in their chart. It could be in their sun or earth or anywhere, actually. And they're going to bring you that 15 to your 5. And that's going to be electromagnetic, so it's going to feel personal. This person is going to be in your face with their extreme rhythm, right? You have the 5, you have that fixed rhythms and an understanding of time, and this person with really extreme rhythms with the 15 is going to come in your face. Now, if that 15 is going to be in the nodes, it's going to be in your environment. There is going to be those extreme rhythms all over the place whenever you look out in the environment, right? Now, if it's in outer planets that say Uranus is sitting in the 15, it's not going to, because we know, that Pluto, Neptune, Jupiter, Saturn, any of these, then then it's going to be personal because you have the 5, but it's going to be personal that Jupiter, for example, gives you the 15 as a development. I know that's crazy, right? But there's a lot of keynotes. So if it's electromagnetic, it's personal. If you have the 5 and the 15 come. If you don't have the 5 or the 15, that's educational. You're getting the full channel and it's an education. You have nothing in you that responds. And then if, if it's just a hanging gate, you don't have the 5, but the 15 is somewhere, then you're getting it, it's going to kind of be in the environment. It's going to create this environment for you. All right, so we have all of these. There's 2 sets of keynotes. One is about the inner planets are bringing you people. The nodes are bringing you direction for the year, and the outer planets are bringing you development. And we can talk more about what is development, but basically this is what you learn, what opens up for you to see that year. And by the way, when I say it's opening up for you to see that year, that's not for your personality. It's the vehicle. It's the vehicle's courses to learn over the year. All right, not the personality. Personality has no idea what is going on with any of this. All right. So, and then, so you right. So we have, is it personal, meaning you have a gate and somebody else is bringing you the gate in electromagnetic, or is it educational? You have nothing on that channel and they're bringing you the full channel, or is it environmental? You have nothing in the channel and that one gate is showing up, and then is that personal thing is going to be brought to you by a person, by the direction, or by a planet just sitting there bringing you development. So you can see that it can get kind of like woo, very woozy, kind of disorienting. And this is why you want to learn those keynotes for how to do this analysis, and you got to practice it. So if you join us Friday, we're going to be practicing this together, and fun part, we're going to be practicing on your own charts. All right. So finally, the focus of solar returns, right? You want to understand the person's vulnerability themes and how they're going to impact decision making. For example, type, the conditioning, whatever else is in that solar return is going to bring out anger in manifestors, frustrations in generators, bitterness in projectors, or disappointment in reflectors. So you're going to, right? So you can start seeing how everything is going to then layer up. It's going to be type. It's going to be what centers you have. It's going to be your profile. A lot of things are going to get all into that not self-pressure. So I'm going to stop and say last thing, and then I'm stopping with solar returns because, again, I have that, and we're going to talk more about this Friday. So here's the main thing I want to tell you about, and because this is relevant for all those readings, for the solar, for the Chiron, for the Saturn. What you really want to learn to do before you can give those any of these readings or do them for yourself is you need to actually understand the natal chart. This is why we said like between 70% and 90% of the time doing the reading, you go back to the birth chart. Because if you really know to look at your chart or somebody else's chart, if you're giving them a reading, you can really see that are going to be certain vulnerabilities or themes that will always come back to haunt this person. As Ras said it, every year something is going to come in and push your buttons, but it's going to be the same buttons. I'll give you an example from my chart because I'm going to use my chart later. I have a completely undefined ego, nothing defined. And across from the ego, I only have one gate that points at the ego, which is my 37, and it is red. It comes from my unconscious, I think, maybe my Venus. We'll see in a minute. I forget. But it's in one of those. So here's the deal. I don't need to know every single thing that's going on every year. However, I know I'm vulnerable to the 40 coming into my either in my annual or I had it in my Saturn. So if the 40 is going to be there, lo and behold, what's going to happen? My 37 that is defined, that's kind of looking at that ego that has nothing and doesn't know anything about the whole ego thing, right? In the not self. The 37 who wants to be friendly to the ego is unconscious to me. So whenever the 40 is going to come around in my solar return or one of my bigger cycles, I am going to have an emotional conundrum and dilemma because I will not know how, and the way it will come out would be I will be friendly or I will be unfriendly, right? That's the deal of the 37. I will try to be loyal or disloyal. And it's all emotional, so it's going to happen on a wave, right? So I don't need, before I look to see, all right, this is for 2023, or this is for 2013, or this is for 2048, doesn't matter. I know that I need to watch out to see if something comes in and defines my ego, and especially if it's going to be with that gate 40, and because that's the one hook that I have across from the ego. So everybody is invited to go look at your chart and really pull out your charts already in preparation for our next part and start looking at what are your core vulnerabilities. Now, obviously, open centers, even more so if it's a split definition, your bridging gates, So you know the Earth, right? If you've been kind of digging in that rabbit hole of human design, you should be quite familiar with your buttons, right? So if your spleen is undefined, but it has, I don't know, gate 32, then you know that whenever gate 54 is going to be there, hooking your conservative 32 with that ambitious climbing, clinging fire of the 54, that you are going to be facing the theme of how do I climb up in the tribe or in the corporate organization, or right? Because that's the deal of the 3254. Now, another caveat, it could be that the full channel is in the right, like you might have the 32, and then the transit might have both the 32 and the 54. It's going to be a little different. Or you might have a full channel. So you might, me, I have the 37. So whenever the 40 comes around, for sure, the ego is going to be like, I'm going to get into this whole dance of being loyal and then being rejected by the ego, right? The 40 is like, 37 is like, let me be loyal. And the 40 is like, let me be alone. And the 37 actually asks the ego to work for it, right? So I might unconsciously play out those themes with people around me. My sister has the 40. She has the full 40, 37. Those are her nodes. So I've, looking back in my life, I can see that whole dance. But that's going to be a vulnerability. But pay attention. I've had times, and for example, in my Saturn, I had 3 ego definitions. I had the 40 defining my 3740. I also had the 2644, and the 44 was in my design Earth, I think, or anyways, it was in my cross for that time, for that Saturn. And so I had that full channel, and I had the money line. So I had 3 different things going on in my absolutely undefined ego. Do I need to really tell you? I was running around like a crazy person, obsessed with proving my worth and having no idea, because my 37 is completely unconscious. And the rest of it is completely foreign to me. It was an education about being a ego leader. It was like all of those, and by the way, I'm giving you just the gates, but it was the gate in the line. So if you really want to do that analysis, you need to read the lines. So, it was all in lines that were about ego leadership, all in the 5th line. So I was living out my not self shit show, and it was all about being this big ego leader. Now, it's not for me. I can be a leader. I'm a 5-1 emotional manifestor, but I was leading in all the wrong ways. And what ended up happening was I took on a lot of stuff with my defined ego, and all of it collapsed. And we'll talk about this more when we get into life cycles. But now I'm just giving you an example for solar return. All of these things are relevant for all of this. All right, now let's look quickly. And again, as I said, I'm not trying to exhaust this. I'm trying to more so open a portal or a window onto this so that you guys get curious. And again, if you can join Friday, join to get more of this, but there will be more opportunities to join and do. I feel like this is going to be a reoccurring thing for me doing those. All right, so now I'm going to talk about those bigger life cycles: your Saturn, your Uranus opposition, and your Chiron, and their purpose. So when you do one of those readings, it's about laying out a long-term process for fulfilling your purpose, and the focus is on. It's a lot more limited. You focus on your profile, and specifically on angle, meaning left angle, right angle, or juxtaposition, right? So I'll explain more in a minute when you see one of those charts. You focus on your cross, and you focus on your nodes, and more specifically, what lines as well the nodes are in. So hang on for a second. I'll just say this. When I say in a longer cycle, we focus on the cross, is for the simple reason that unlike every year when you look at your solar return, where your sun goes back to wherever it is in your natal chart, when you have one of those bigger life cycles, it's a totally different date. You have a totally different position in the sun and the earth. Sometimes you have, some people have some life cycles So today I was just the other day, I was talking to, I'm not going to say the name, one of you all, you might be here. And we noticed that one of your big life cycles, I think it was the Uranus opposition, was on the flip cross. So for example, me, I have 19 and the 33. So it's as if it would be flipped. So my sun would be in my 33 and my earth would be in my 19. So this person had the mirror cross. And this is by the serendipity of fractal, right? So long story short, when you look at your Saturn, your Uranus position, or your Chiron returns, you're going to have a completely different cross. And drum roll, it can be in a different profile. Now, I happen to have all of these in the 5-1, but it could have easily been the 2-4 or anything, right? So a lot of what we look at in those bigger cycles is, okay, what is your cross? During that cycle, it's not your cross, but it's giving you a lot of valuable information about where the purpose is going. So I'll give you an example. In my Saturn, I'm not going to talk about my Saturn now, but I'll do the Uranus. In my Uranus opposition return, I had 56 in line 5 and the 60 in line 5 in my sun and my earth. It's the cross of, I'm horrible with it. I think it's called is it the cross of stimulation or something like that? Distraction. I got distracted. I'm finishing that whole thing right now. I'm going into my Chiron. I'm in the midst of my, by the way, guys, I'm in between my design and my personality dates for my Chiron. As I'm speaking to you, I'm in between. All right. So it was the left angle cross of distraction. And it's a cross about, and then it has the 56, the 60, and then the, if I'm not mistaken, it's the 27, 28. We'll see in a sec. But anyways, what that meant was, it was a very collective cross, all about, storytelling. And then the 60 is all about grounding in conservatism, and so on and so forth. But anyways, as I was transitioning out of academia, I started writing a lot of memoir. Like I stopped writing academic things and I started writing a lot of personal narrative. And it was kind of like my way of completely recreating my life, was to engage in that absolutely new level of creativity and writing personal things. And it was part of my awakening process. All of this was supported by the cross system, by that 56 in line 5, which is all about telling a story, telling a stimulating story. All right, moving on to the examples. So you look at the profile, you look at the cross, and you look at the nodes, because that's going to give you the stage upon which during that cycle you will be performing. So it would give you a lot of information. And again, it's going to become a lot more easy to explain when I get to the, so I'm just going to briefly look at my charts, and I'm going to start with just my birth chart. So you can see me, I'm a 5-1. Now, again, why am I starting? Okay, quick explanation. I am trying to role model for you how you approach doing one of those cycle analysis. And I want to remind you again and again and again and again that it's always the idea that you are bringing people back to their natal chart. So the focus is in all of those are your strategy and your authority. Who are you? Who you are not? Your open centers, your if you're a split definition, the bridges, the not what I call the not self shit show that you have going. Because at the end of the day, it's all about, remember, it's not about which things are going to be defined and thrown at you and push your buttons. It's about where are the buttons. So let's start with where are my buttons. And I'm not going to do a full self-diagnosis here, but I just want to show you the quick things, right? So here I am, that's me. I have the 19 and the 33 in the line 5 in my sun earth, and then the 1 and 2 in line 1 in my sun earth for my cross on my design side. This is the left angle cross of refinement. I have the moon in the gate of death in the 6th line in detriment. When my taste is shallow, the gift that I have is not as profound. That's the detriment, which only means that when the taste is not shallow and I'm really into something, my gift is even more profound, and so on and so forth. You can see that my nodes on both sides are in the 9-16, going from 16 to 9. And if you jump to see my channels, I have the full channel 1648. And then the 9 that's also in my nodes is actually hanging out of my otherwise completely undefined sacral. Going to how do you look at a chart, we start with the inner authority. My inner authority is emotional because the solar plex is defined by the channel 5539. It's also individual. So I have an emotional individual wave from hope and pain and back again. And it's very melancholic, right? It can be very melancholic. And that individuality, and this is, again, I'm constantly showing people how to read charts. So this is how do you, if you look at the inner authority, the channel that defines it, and it's individual, you want to see, what else is going on that's individual? And so since the rest of my channels are not individual, it's very important to take a look and see that actually my cross has a lot of individuality, but on the unconscious side. All right, so that the 1 and the 2 are in my undefined G are participating in the melancholic individual situation I have here. And also that if you look at my solar plexus, the 22, which is very individual and part of that whole stream is also defined. So there are going to be individual things going on always with me. And then the rest of my process is that full stream of talent and logic, collective talent. It's going in the third here. That's just quickly to see who I am. But what are the vulnerabilities? Completely open head and ajna, completely open ego, undefined G with the 1 and the 2, and this is where my sun earth is sitting from the unconscious side, undefined sacral with the 9 twice, actually like 1,000 times. I have it in my Neptune, both sides in line 3 and 6, and in the nodes, both sides in 3 and 6, okay? So we know that that whole, and so here's another quick reminder, or might be new to you. When you look at all of those cycles, it's very important to see when you have a center that's undefined, what are the hooks? So for example, my sacral, undefined. I'm always not going to know when enough is enough, right? And all of that. But when anything comes to define my sacral, the way it's going to come out for me in the sacral, because I have the 9 so many times, it's going to be flavored by that focus on detail, that sacral energy for logical detail work. If you're asking yourself why I have a knack for getting this full system with all the million details, and I can get the details wrong because I have it in line 3 2 times, right? So the 9 in line 3 is going to make some mistakes about the details. Inevitably, but that's also okay, right? So back to how we use this in one of those chart readings is you look at that and you go like, okay, this person is vulnerable for whenever the 52 is going to come in, because the 52 is going to define my sacral, but also the 14, because I have the, right? If you just want to look at my sacral and understand what the buttons are, the 14 is a button for me because the 2, I have the 2 unaware in my earth. Whenever the 14 comes, it's going to really activate my sacral. And the 42, because I have the 53 pointing it, right? So you look at the center, you look at everything that's pointing it, and the 27. So I know that whenever the 14 or the 27 or the 42 or the 52, all of these are going to be, I'm on the lookout for them. If they're going to be in one of my charts for my annual or for my other cycles, I'm going to be like, okay, coming for my cycle. All right, I hope that that makes sense. So unlike that, if you look at my completely undefined open or ajna or ego, that's a little bit different, right? Because nothing in me is a button that's even it's like, I'm clueless about all of these things, right? Or completely open to all of these things. And so it's always going to be it's going to be something that I can be objective about. I have nothing hooking me into that. All right, I hope that that makes sense. So you look at my chart, what you want to understand is the vulnerability is going to be, if anything comes to define my G, the 8 or the 14, for example, and then that's going to be a year where I'm going to be asking myself a lot of questions about direction and love. All right. If something is going to define my ego, I'm going to be even more vulnerable than usual to proving. I will make decisions that would be about proving my worth. Again, this is all in the not self. et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then there are specific hooks that I'm going to be available for, the 8, the 14, the 40, the 27. And by the way, the 27 is in all my cycles. All right, so now let's look at my 2024 return. And I can't believe I'm actually on time for finishing this presentation today. Yay, me. All right. So quickly, let's just look at an example for how you do solar return. What am I looking at? So this is me, right? And this is the 2024, and here is the composite. All right, the purple is what comes from the return. So yeah, the 19 and the 33 are same. If we look at the moon, all right, on the design side, I have the moon in line 4, in gate 4 and line 6, and you see it here. It's sitting here across from my 63 that I don't have. It's just sitting here. And then the 57 is in line 6. Now, here's what I want to tell you. My son has the channel 5710, the perfected form. My daughter has the gate 4. So I can already tell it's pretty, like, you can say this, the moon brings people. My kids are going to be driving my process. But then you can even go more into it and say, my son is I'm going to be conscious about the way he's driving my process this year. But my daughter, maybe I'm not going to be as conscious about how she drives my process this year. Now, it doesn't mean that it's only my daughter and only my son. It could be many different people. But this is a really great way. I loved showing you guys this year because usually our kids, and also, can I just say, how cool is that we keep verifying in our experimentation? So again, I very much invite you to pull out all of the years and see who's in your moon, and then do detective work and look at your family members, your siblings, your ex, and their chart. Ooh, okay, so 1998, when I met him, his conscious sun was my moon. Ooh-wee. Okay, right? It goes like that. It's literally people that are brought to you. All right, couple more quick examples, and then we'll open this up to questions. So this is in the moon. Now, my nodes, look at that. So my nodes are going to be going from the 32 to the 40, 32 to 42 on the 5th line. It means that there are going to be, well, first, a couple of things. I have the 32. I don't have the 42. My son has the 42. So he's going to be driving my process in the moon and providing the environment, also environment of finishing things and getting into like a long-term projects and shit that needs to be finished, right? And then look at this. On the conscious side, my nodes are also defined by my child, the 57 that's in the moon. And we all know that 57 and 51 were everywhere. But all of this, all the way up to Mars is, all right, the 38, for example, my husband has this, etc. All right, so I'm going to just jump to my Chiron. Now, as I told you, I'm in the midst of my Chiron. I already had this side. And now April 28, I'm going to have this side. Now, look at the beauty here. So my cross is still 5-1, but it's accidental. And I have the 27 in my sun, the 28 in my earth, and then the 19 and 33 in line 1. Anybody notice something interesting? In my birth chart, I have the 19 and 33 in line 5. In my Chiron, I'm going to have the foundation of that 19 in line 1 and the foundation of the 33 in line 1 actually marking my unconscious sun earth. So what does that tell us? Who knows? I mean, we're going to wait and see, but it's going to be interesting for sure. Now, look at the moon. Ding, ding, ding. What's going to happen in the moon? Unconsciously, I have the 40. So looky here, my ego is going to be defined during that cycle. All right, you guys are getting the point. So if you look, let's step back and just look at the picture. You can see that except for my head and my ajna, although they're going to have the 63 here and then the 23 pointing at the ajna, but there's still nothing in the ajna, a definition in the head. But other than that, everything else that I have undefined is defined in this, and it's going to bring specific pressures. Now, the 42-6 is also in my Venus, so there's going to be people And it's probably going to be my son, but maybe other people as well, right? That have the 42 that are going to come. And this is going to be personal. Why? Because I have the 53. So this is how we start looking at this. Okay, inner planets. So it's going to be people. And then, and now this is, I'm looking at this like I look at solar return, but honestly, we don't even look so much at that for those bigger cycles. What we look at for the bigger cycles is mostly what's in the sun, earth, what is my cross. It's going to be the 27.5 that it's about, well, a couple of things. It's in my cross. And as you noticed before that I said, I have the 50 hanging in my natal chart. So it's going to bring pressure on my sacral. And the pressure is going to be for caring. I mean, I can already tell you, my kids are becoming teenagers, and I know what this is about. I know as a manifestor mom how much energy of caring I'm feeling pressured to exert. And there's this tension between me wanting to do all of this and me wanting to be present and have time for my teenage kids. So I really don't, I don't need to wreck my brain too much to understand, where is that 27 hitting me with this energy that I need to step up as a fifth line 27 to provide. And what the 27.5 is about providing. You get to kind of execute and disseminate resources. Anyways, I'm not going to get into that too much, but like this is totally my role in the family. So right now it can give me a sense of, and then it's grounded with the 28, which is individual struggle. So my tension between these tribal things that are pressuring me to really work a lot at caring for people, that's not my natural forte, if you will, although I'm, of course, they're my kids, I love them. I'm a very loving, caring mom, but there's going to be an extra pressure on that. And then in the earth, it's going to be grounded in my struggle. And the 28 is all about like, does it give me meaning? Is this really the struggle I need to be in to live out my purpose? Is that struggle about caring for the family and the tribe? So this is just one little example for how me looking out into the Chiron, I'm like, okay, this is going to be that situation. It's going to be that cross. I'm still a 5-1, but again, as I said, sometimes when you generate your own charts, you can have a totally different. So for example, if you're a 5-1 and your Chiron profile is in 2-4, you're going to get really confused. Why? Because you're a left angle cross and you're used to having other people karmatically bound to you and that you have to meet certain forces at certain times in order for you to live out your process. And suddenly it's going to be like, I'm a hermit just wanting to be that movement of the 2-4, that the 2 wants to just be a hermit in their own space. And, out of that network of the 4, somebody comes and knocks at the door and calls the 2 out. That's going to become relevant for that person during that time. So it's very, very important to see, if you're a 3-1 and suddenly you have a 6-2 in your Saturn, then you're going to be educated by your profile itself about a totally different kind of interaction with the other. So it can be, especially if it changes from left angle cross to right angle cross and vice versa, it could be, I'm used to having people as part of my process. Where is everybody? Or I am not used to, I'm used to just being, I'm a 3-5. I'm just like here to make and break bonds. And I don't, people are not a necessary part of my process. And suddenly I'm a 6-2 or I'm a 5-1 and whoa, why do I have to deal with all these people and forces, right? So you can get really confused. All right, so I've covered somewhat successfully, I think, the kind of basics here. If you want to join Friday, please let me know. If you still need more of a discount beyond the 10% that's available, I'm open to having a conversation with you and see if we can open this as a donation-based class for, and again, it kind of depends. The more people who we have in who are fully paying, their generosity allows me to offer scholarships or more discounts to others. But if you really, really feel deeply called to do this work, I do not want anybody to not be in the class just because they can't afford to pay. It would be nice to be paid something, but we can have a conversation about what that is. All right, friends. So with that, let me open this up for your questions and your charts. If anybody on the call wants to actually share a chart or has a specific question. If not, I can also pull up. So meanwhile, as you guys are kind of deciding on the call if you want to do this, I'm going to go in my Facebook and see if we have on Unblock with Human Design, some people have asked questions about their charts. I'm going to see if there's anything there, but if not, let me know. And okay, here's what I'm going to do. If you're watching this on Facebook and you want to jump in and have a private conversation, I'm going to end the Facebook Live and we're going to look at people's charts and questions who are on the Zoom. How about that? And if you have a question and you're watching this on Facebook, you can put a comment right now on there and I will look at that. All right, so other than that, that's it for me. We have, again, just to recap what we have going, we have the Friday workshop. I still have available energy to do one-on-one reading, so there's a special rate on my chart reading. You can book 2 90-minute sessions for the price of one, which is, I think it's like, I don't remember what it is, like around 300. It's reduced, so it's not the 450, it's like 259 or something like that. So you can do one-on-one chart reading work with me. Yeah, that's it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, share, help me share my free events and my coaching calls with your Human Design Network. It really helps and really warms my heart. And I just want to also kind of give a shout out and thank you for everybody that's contacting me, via email and DMing me and all of that. It really, I know I'm a manifestor and it can be scary, but I'm very collective. And so as a manifestor that's collective, my impact is important for me. And being in a feedback loop with the others I'm sharing with is important for me. So I want to invite you, if you're a projector, invite you to respond. If you're a generator, if you're a reflector, you're going to do what you're going to do anyways. And if you're a manifestor, same. But I really want to just reiterate that I welcome the interaction and I really enjoy, this community created. And I'll say one last thing. You can also share your questions anytime on the group Unblock with Human Design. It might take me some time to get back to it, but I will answer. But also feel free to answer each other and create conversations on the group. I sometimes feel maybe because I'm a manifestor, people don't feel that they can initiate things on that group. And that's fine, but I want to invite you and initiate you to actually initiate. Like, come on the group, you're invited to make it whatever it is that you need it to be. And I'm always happy to obsess with you on your most pressing human design questions. All right, other than that, I'm not going to see everybody Friday because Friday we're having, and we're starting 11 a.m. East Coast time. So Friday is dedicated to this, the workshop. And so I will see about when am I going to do my next transit report. Go to my YouTube channel to see the transit report. There are multiple hours of content, free content on that YouTube channel. Watch it, like it, subscribe it, share it. I love you. And stay on the Zoom if you're here. Other than that, if you're on Facebook, we are terminating. So have a great rest of your day. And yeah, I'm here for your questions. Just DM me.